'Tis the season to be really jolly here on Miss Earth Crown. After a successful and unparalleled coverage of Miss Earth 2020, Miss Earth Crown moves forward with a new look, a new brand, and new original content. This is MEC TV. This Christmas season, witness the premiere of our brand new show, In Focus, a show where we ask the important questions, one-on-one. And for the premiere season of In Focus, all eyes are on Miss Earth U.S.A. 2021. And our American queens will be here to prove why they should be the next Miss Earth USA. In Focus premieres December 13 with our first guest, Miss Maine Earth Marisa Paige Butler. And in the coming year, get ready for a bigger and bolder Miss Earth 2021, the MEC coverage, with our shows that will definitely keep you posted. MEC in Focus, one-on-one, hot button, hot topics. MEC Inside Stories, interviews with present and past queens, and more special guests. An MEC Pageant Roundup, your weekly dose of Miss Earth pageant analysis during the Miss Earth season. So join us starting this holiday season and in the coming year with a heavy dose of Miss Earth that only MEC TV can deliver.
I am Marisa Paige Butler, and I am representing Maine. When it comes to fostering a love for nature, Maine's state slogan, "The way life should be," could not ring any more true. With the highest percentage of forestation of any state, the fourth longest coastline, over 6,000 lakes, and 4 distinct seasons, it's no wonder that our citizens grow up with such a passion and love for the great outdoors. This love was instilled in me by my mother, whom I would often help to rehabilitate and transport sick and injured animals to the Center for Wildlife. From mice, chipmunks, turtles, beavers, and dogs, my mother taught me that every living being, no matter how small, was important. I carried on this love for animals to college, where I began my work as a volunteer for NOAA's Cooperative Shark Tagging Program. My team's volunteer work in data collection contributed to the 2017 stock assessment that imposed stricter fishing laws aimed to halt the overfishing of the short-fin mako shark. After college, I moved to the beautiful city of sunny San Diego. San Diego County is home to approximately 200 imperiled plants and animals. That's more than any other county in the nation. Right away, I decided to get to work, volunteering each weekend with various environmental organizations, including San Diego Canyonlands, that removes invasive plant species and replaces them with native species, the San Diego Audubon Society, which focuses on restoring the few remaining nesting sites of the endangered California least terns, and the Sierra Club Seal Society more recently, who educates the public and advocates for the seal and sea lions in La Jolla Cove. When COVID-19 swept across my city, I noticed our once pristine hiking, walking, and bike trails were covered in litter from the increased usage. As an avid hiker, lover of animals, and certified Leave No Trace trainer, I could not stand by and do nothing about this problem. I decided to create my own volunteer group called We Clean Trails. What started as my intended month-long Think Global Act Local project has turned into a family of environmentally conscious hikers that have met every Saturday morning for the past 7 months. We focus our cleanup efforts on trails near imperiled ecosystems, with the goal of leaving the natural spaces in San Diego better than we found it. In doing so, we are removing one of the many obstacles for the survival of native plant and animal life that call these places home. As Miss Earth USA, I would want to share my love for animals and the great outdoors, and teach others how we can be a voice for and protect the plants and animals that share our collective habitat. I want to continue to share the message of the way life should be. It should be filled with love for each other, for all life, and for this beautiful earth we as a collective call home.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back here on the Miss Earth Crown page. I am so excited. It's been a while, you guys, and welcome to MEC TV. My name is Noy Sabelano, and I am the chief correspondent of Miss Earth Crown. And of course, welcome back to our brand new season here on MEC TV with our brand new show, MEC TV in Focus. And for today, we have an extra special guest gracing our live stream for today. Of course, this is going to be a very special episode. It's the holidays, so we're going to give you what you want, which is our coverage of Miss Earth USA 2021. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Miss Maine Earth 2021, Marisa Paige Butler.
All of you today, and thank you for having me on your show.
There you go. Hi, Marisa.
Hi,
Wow.
how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yes. So once again, Earthlings, this is Marisa Paige Butler, our very first guest for our MEC TV in Focus series for Miss Earth USA 2021. Marisa, thank you so much for gracing our page for today. So,
Of
how
course.
is everything
Thank you for having
going?
me. Oh, it's
Yes,
going
yes.
very well. So today was actually the last cleanup of 2020 for my project We Clean Trails. So we did that this morning and then had a little bit of a lazy Saturday before we head into the holiday season. And now I'm here speaking with you and couldn't be any more excited. So thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. It's definitely our pleasure for having this interview right now with you, Marisa, because I think our Earthlings are going to agree that you are one of the most watched out for candidates for Miss Earth USA 2021. And
Thank
speaking
you.
of that, yes, speaking of that, we already have a lot of fans saying hi to our special guest for today. Before we start our really great conversation with Marisa here, allow me to say hi to all of our Earthlings here. Marisa, maybe you can say hi to first to Ralph Sambat.
Hello, Ralph. Thank you for tuning in.
There you go. And of course, one of our great friends, definitely Linel Valenciano.
Of
Hi,
course,
Linel.
Linnell. Hello. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Linel, for tuning in. And of course, I think one of our fellow hosts from our uh, friend page, Miss Earth Beauties. This is Gab Galvez. Hi, Gab. Thank you
Hi,
for
Gab.
tuning in. There you go. And I think you also have here one of our friends from the pageant community, Michelle Ann Constantino of Pageant Hub. Maybe you can say hi to
Hi,
Michelle
Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for
there.
tuning
And
in.
I
That means so much to me.
yes, thank you so much to all of our viewers. And we also have here someone saying back-to-back victory. Mm. So
That's the goal.
even yes, even before you win the Miss Earth USA 2021 crown, they are already like envisioning if ever you win, you have a shot at the back-to-back victory at Miss
Well,
Earth.
I
But think about that.
appreciate that. And with our team at Miss Earth USA, I think that anything is possible. We have such a strong group of directors. So I know that if I were to get the honor to be able to be Miss Earth USA, I would have such a strong group behind me. And we really could have that opportunity to have that back-to-back victory.
There you go. And allow me to say also hi to, of course, our big boss at Miss Earth Crown, our editor-in-chief, Mark Ligachalian, one of the most awaited interview. Hi,
Thank
Marky.
you.
There you go. And one last, before we begin, of course, the bigger boss, so to say, the founder of Miss Earth Crown. Allow me to say hi to Glenn Tristan, looking gorgeous Marissa, another stunner for MEUSA 2021. What can you say about that?
Thank you so much, Glenn.
There you go. So once again, to all of our fans right now, we're going to have like 1 hour or so of a fun conversation, interesting conversation with Marisa Paige Butler, Miss Maine Earth 2021. And of course, we're going to have an opportunity to ask your questions. So if you have any questions in mind for the beautiful Marissa over here, feel free to place them in the comment section. But before we have your questions, definitely we have something already in store for with
Nope, I can't hear
Marissa.
you anymore, Noy.
There you go. Sorry,
There we
there
go.
you go. Okay, there you go. There. Okay, so we're going to have the start of our fun conversation with Marisa Paige Butler with our signature segment here on Miss Earth Crown. This is actually a new one, Marissa. This is what we call Marissa's year-round highlights. Okay, so to all of the fans right here, right now, we are going to ask Marissa questions or ask her to do some tasks related to the different highlights of the year. So are you ready, Marissa,
Yes,
for
I
this one?
am. Excited to be the first one to do the segment.
Yay, thank you so much. Let's have the very first one. Okay, I have here 5 year-round highlights, and I'm going to start the questions with Thanksgiving. Marissa, name 3 things that you are most thankful for this year.
Well, the very first one that comes to mind is my dog Milo. So I rescued a dog Milo this year, and having a animal in the house when we are cooped up in the house and not really to be able to go anywhere because of COVID has really been the most amazing blessing that I've had in my life. He is just such a huge ball of fluff and fun. So I definitely am thankful for him. Second, I am thankful for the health of my family. My father actually is a very high risk case for COVID, so we're very thankful that he has not contracted that, nor is anyone else in my family. And then the third would just be the opportunity to be able to compete at Miss Earth USA. That's something that I am so excited about, and we've been preparing for a long time. And even though it has been held back because of COVID and pushed till January, this is something that I've been working really hard on for the past year. And actually, even a little bit before then, I had plans to join further on a couple of years ago to join Miss Earth USA. So I'm just excited that I was able to really do the prep work this year and really get my advocacy strong and going with my We Clean Trails advocacy.
Wow, that's really great to hear. And I'd like to like highlight what you mentioned that of course there are still things that we have to be thankful for, even if 2020 was such a difficult year. I think that's also one way of like making sure that we have like the proper mindset going into the new year, so to say, right?
Yes, exactly.
There you go. Thank you so much, Marissa, for sharing that. Next one. I'd like now to find out something about. Okay, this one's kind of interesting. April Fool's Day. Okay. In relation to this, what was the funniest prank you did or done to you? Is there
So
anything you have in mind?
actually, April Fool's Day was my grandfather's birthday. So in my family, it was forbidden for us to do any type of April Fool's jokes because he hated it so much. So when I was a kid, I really didn't have much exposure to that. But it wasn't until I was in high school when I was spending the day with my high school sweetheart that his little sister played a prank on me. She'd put icy hot on all the toilet seats in the house and didn't tell anyone.
Oh
So
my
as you
God.
can imagine, that was quite a surprise. And I didn't really know it was happening at first. And then my high school sweetheart told me, oh no, she tries to do this every year. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot that today was April Fool's to warn you. But so that's my only prank experience that I have ever had with April Fool's, simply because my grandfather, he denied us from doing any type of April Fool's pranks because it was his birthday.
Oh, there you go. But then, of course, in terms of like speaking of like fun, so to say, what does Marisa Paige Butler do for fun? Like on a regular day, what will we catch you doing just for fun?
Well, I'm very active. So I played 3 sports in college at Division II level. So I still keep that in my life today. So before COVID, I would join different recreational adult league soccer teams.
Mm.
Now during COVID, we obviously can't be doing the group sports, but I'm a very avid hiker. That's kind of where the inspiration came for my program, We Clean Trails. So
Mm.
I am very often found hiking around San Diego. We're really fortunate that we have such a diverse ecosystem here. So one day I can be hiking by the beach, the next day I can be hiking in a woods, and the next I could be right out in the desert. So it's really great to be able to spend time outdoors. That's something I always did when growing up. All my earliest memories were playing in our backyard. We had this big nature preserve behind my house. So that's something that
Wow.
I've always been very close to my heart, just being outside and being active. So that's what I try to do still today.
That's really great to know that the things that you love to do is also in relation to what you have done as, as your advocacy, as your cause. And that has a great
Exactly.
relation, right?
That's why I'm
I mean,
so excited about Miss Earth USA, because I finally feel like I have found a pageant system that matches who I am at my core. So I know it took a little bit of trial and error for me, but I have finally found an organization that really applauds everything that I have been doing since I was a little girl
mhm,
and have loved and enjoyed since then.
there. It's also very interesting to find out that right now you are here and it feels like the perfect fit for you. And we're so happy that we are here talking to you right now about the things that you find important as, as a person and as a woman. Thank you so much for sharing that,
Thank
Marissa.
you.
There you go. Next one. Now let's move on to Valentine's Day. This one's pretty interesting. Okay, I actually made placed this specific task for Valentine's Day.
Oh
What is
no.
the song of your heart right now? And can you sing a few lines? Because not most people know that Marissa here is a singer, right, Marissa?
Yes, so I was classically trained as an opera singer, but I've been trying to break into a little bit more of musical theater and just regular pop music as well recently. But let's see. Um, the only one that's coming to my mind is actually Colors of the Wind, which is what I did for my talent for Miss Earth
Yay!
USA this year. And that definitely is part of my heart, because there's a few reasons why I wanted to sing that song. Was one, I do have Native American heritage, so singing a Pocahontas song was something I always wanted to do. It was actually the very first song that inspired me to take singing lessons when I was a young girl. And then, as also the message alone also really is pointed towards what the mission is of Miss Earth USA, and also my advocacy, the collective Earth. But I did not warm up to sing, but I will
It's
try.
okay. I think our
Oh,
fans would love to hear a sample, like a few lines
yes.
from that song.
You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. Not warmed up, but
Yeah.
here we go. And
Woo!
that line right there is the reason why I decided to pick that song, just because my advocacy is the collective Earth, so that's habitat
Yeah.
preservation and conservation. So, and I'm trying to teach land ethics, and a lot of that is involved with looking at plants and animals more on an
Yeah.
equal playing field as humans, to be able to give them the respect that they need in order for us to be able to really make decisions that will preserve
Yeah.
their habitats. So that's why I picked that song, and I'm very excited. You can see the full and actually warmed up version of it on my Facebook
Yes.
and Instagram.
Yes. Actually, I have seen the full video. It's a really amazing like performance. And
Oh,
our
thank you.
editor-in-chief, Mark Ligatchalian, agrees. Wow, you sound like a theater performer. I
Thank
totally agree.
you.
And of course, thank you for blessing us with those few lines from Colors of the
Of
Wind, Marissa.
course.
There you go. Moving on. Our next holiday is, we're going to move on to this. Of course, New Year's Eve. There. Marissa, what are the two things you plan to start? One thing you plan to start and one thing you plan to stop doing in 2021.
Yeah, so one thing I plan to stop doing, which I already have started phasing it out, is I want to stop eating meat. So I've already cut out red meat from my diet, and I have done that for about 7 months now. And I really would like to move away from eating meat into the new year. So start cutting out a few more things here and there to be able to get a little bit closer to eating a totally vegetarian diet. I started doing that a little bit earlier, but I really need to figure out how to get enough protein by
Mhm.
other ways before I do that full term, just because I did notice some detriment to my health just because I wasn't doing it with enough knowledge. So that's something that I really want to focus on, is gaining that knowledge so that I can make that transition in a healthy way. And then as far as something I want to start,
Yeah.
I actually started doing it, but I want to go running more often. As much of an athlete as I've always been, I've never been someone who likes to go for a run. But my dog Milo loves to go run. So it's making it
Mhm.
a lot more enjoyable for me, and it also tires him out for the day, which is also nice. So that way I can kind of get in his and my exercise, and then also just try to create a healthy relationship with running, which is something I just never did. That's why I was a goalie in all of my sports, so I didn't have to do
Mhm.
all the running. So that's something I'm trying to do more consistently every morning, starting in 2021.
Wow, really great New Year's resolutions right there. And I think our fans are gonna be inspired to do the same thing, especially with the running and with running with your fur baby. Because
Yes.
I think also as a pet, I have a pet, but then it's a cat. I think we have to keep up with, the pace and how they live, their dynamics. So that's a really great thing that you are going to do for next year.
Yes,
Thank you so
especially with
much.
all the gyms closed, we have to find
Yeah.
new ways to get our exercise in as healthy and safe. So that's going to be my way of getting in a little bit more cardio in my day-to-day habits.
There you go. And also, that's also great preparation for Miss Earth
Yes.
USA swimsuit competition. Right. There you go. Great job. All right. Last one. This is the last, I think, for the holiday highlights that we have for Marissa. Of course, tis the season to be jolly, so we're gonna end with Christmas. Marissa, if you could wish for an advanced Christmas gift for yourself,
Mhm.
what would it be and why?
So the very first thing that came to my mind is a hug for my mom. So I haven't been able to see my
Oh,
family in over a year now. And that's something that's really hard on me just because I am so close with my family, and I haven't been able to see or hug my mom in a very long time. So if I could get a hug from my mom right now, that would mean the world to me. So I'm really looking forward to being able to see them soon. They'll be able to come to the pageant in January. So that will be a
mhm.
little bit of a reunion for us. So I'd love to be able to have a hug from my mother for Christmas.
Wow, that's a really great wish. And I think around the world, since the pandemic started, there is like a huge increase in distance between people, most especially with families around the world. And that would be a great Christmas gift, not only for you, but I think for everyone. So to all of
Exactly.
the families out there, virtual hug from us, from Marisa to me, to all of you right here. Thank you so much, Marisa. And that concludes our segment one. We're only at segment one, Earthlings, but we have learned a lot about Marisa on a personal level. So thank you so much, Marisa, for
Of
sharing
course, thank
all of those
you.
things. There you go. Now, allow me to also to once again go back to the live comments because there are a lot of comments coming in for you. We have here someone from YouTube. Actually, we are live stream both on Facebook and YouTube. Allow me to share this. Okay, this one. Okay, Little Penny actually has a question. She wants to ask about Lindsay, our current Miss Earth 2020. Have you spoken with Lindsay after her being crowned as Miss Earth?
Yeah, so I actually spoke with her a little bit before she was crowned Miss Earth USA. I've tried to give her a little bit of space. I know she's a little bit overwhelmed with all the well wishes and messages. So I plan to talk to her a little bit more later on about this exact question. But prior to the pageant, we got to talk a little bit on Instagram, and she is such a wonderful girl, and I am so devastated I didn't get to meet her in August for our pageant when it
Mhm.
was originally scheduled, because I think that her and I really would be great friends. We have so much in common. She's a world traveler like myself. She loves to hike and adventure. She also played all the sports in college and is a phenomenal
Correct.
singer. So we have so much in common.
Oh
So
my God,
she was
yeah.
really the one I was the most excited to meet because of that. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know her, and then also to get more advice from her of her journey to Miss Earth USA in January when we get to meet in person.
There you go. Thank you so much for that question, Little Penny. And we also have another person. Again, Marissa, they are claiming this already. Back to back for USA. Now,
Oh, thank you.
maybe I can ask a question. I mean, what was like the general like atmosphere with all of the Miss Earth USA ladies after you have learned that Lindsay Coffey, your fellow Miss Earth USA girl, had won the title? What was like the excitement? Were you really excited?
So
What was the
they
atmosphere?
actually had a little group Zoom chat where everyone was watching the pageant together. Unfortunately, my login wasn't working very well for that, so I had to watch it by myself. But seeing everyone's reactions, everyone went absolutely insane and crazy, excited for her.
Mm,
I actually started tearing up just because I was so proud of her for bringing home the very first Miss Earth USA crown to the United States. From the second she was crowned Miss Earth USA, I had no doubt in my mind that she was going to be able to bring that home, which also gave me a lot more incentive to work on my skills, because whoever is going to take the position of Lindsay as Miss Earth USA has very
yeah,
big shoes to fill. So I wanted to make sure that I present myself in a way that is really in line with how Lindsay did as well. You know, be able to
yeah,
represent the United States eloquently and beautifully at Miss Earth, because I think that Miss Earth USA really can become such a strong system in the United States. It's very much growing now. We have our new directors, and it is just such an amazing team. So I think that it would be a great opportunity for the United States if we were able to have a back-to-back win, because then we could be making some real noise in the United States saying, this is the pageant that you need to join, and that Miss Earth
yeah.
USA has the mission that is important and relevant. So being able to represent the United States after Lindsay, as much as it is big shoes to fill, is something that I feel that I'm ready to do and excited to do, because I want to be part of building this system in the United States.
There you go. Wow. Just by hearing what you have mentioned, Marissa, I think you're in it to win it. And I think I'm also really happy to hear that, yes, the win of Lindsay Coffey has actually opened another like era for Miss Earth USA. And
Exactly.
what, right? And it happened on the 20th year
Yes.
of the
Such
competition.
a historic event for so many reasons. And also, I feel like it was a much needed win for the United States with everything. I know
Yeah.
that everyone in the world have things going on this year, but with us also being in a very contentious election year as well,
Yeah.
it was nice to be able to have that win at the end of 2020, to be able to say, you know, we accomplished something great in this year despite the pandemic. So as a fellow United American, you know, it's meant a lot to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for that question and that comment, rather, JB's Animal Toys. And once again, to all of the fans, please feel free to key in your comments continuously, because we are moving on to our next segment. Since we already have questions coming in about Miss Earth USA and Marisa's pageant story, we're moving on to our next segment, which is, of course, Marisa's pageant history or experience. So what we're going to do is, Marisa, we're going to show you some photos of your past pageant experiences, and maybe you can tell us a little bit of like an interesting story, like highlights, and the things that you that are really unforgettable about that pageant experience. All right.
Of course.
So let's move on to the first one. Okay, of course, before you are Miss Maine Earth 2021, you are Miss Maine USA back in
Yes.
2016. Is that right? Maybe you can tell us a
Yes.
story behind that.
So I actually had competed for Miss Maine USA for a number of years. I had a bad case of first runner-ups as well. I was first runner-up in the Miss Maine Teen USA pageant, which was my first. So finally winning Miss Maine USA was a very big accomplishment for me. And I remember going to Miss USA. I was still very young. I actually graduated from college the day before that I flew off to Miss USA in Las Vegas, Nevada that year. So it was a very whirlwind of few weeks for me. But that was my first big pageant experience. That was something that, being a small town girl from Maine, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I don't think that I was 100% prepared for what I was about to experience. But at the same time, I had the most amazing time. I met some of the greatest women that I'm still friends with to this day. And one of them was actually Amani, was in one of my group mates in Miss
Yes.
2016. So her transition over to Miss Earth USA was an inspiration to me as well. Since I didn't know her personally, she was one of my favorite girls at the pageant. I remember just being such in awe of her and thinking she was just so eloquent and also so confident in who she was and funny at the same time. So that was something that I always remembered about her and was one of the reasons why I was inspired to join Miss Earth USA. And I remember probably the best memory I have of my time as Miss Maine USA was the time I got to have a conversation with Deshauna Barber. So before she was crowned, we all went to New York for a Sherry Hill fashion show. And we decided, the group of us, we wanted to go out to dinner after the fashion show. We had our teen queens with us as well. And it being in New York, and I thought, you know, these teens probably shouldn't be sitting at a table all by themselves. We should have at least two miss sitting with them. And so since Deshauna and I didn't really drink and we weren't really participating in the same type of dinner that the other misses were having, we decided to go sit with the teen girls. So I got a chance to have a really long dinner, one-on-one conversation with her and got to know her so well. And again, it's just one of the best conversations that I remember having. We talked about her time in the military, what she would be doing if she won the title, with her commitment to the military. And I just remember having such an amazing impression of her in my mind after that conversation. So that is actually one of the things I think that stuck out the most. And to be able to have her support after the pageant as well, when I participated in other pageants, her and Amani, it's just been such a great opportunity to have such a sisterhood behind me and supporting me in everything that I do afterwards.
Yes, and actually, that's a really great thing that you shared. That yes, since this is still, of course, this was still a really great experience for you. Of course, being part of Miss USA 2016 it's such a huge deal. But
it was a
by
growing
being
experience for me,
yes,
for sure.
exactly.
I always think of it this way, especially where Miss Earth USA is a pageant that fits who I am as a person. I see my other pageants that I participated in as amazing moments in my life that have acted as preparation for the moment that's going to mean the most to me. So even though I had so much great great experience within all those pageants, it never felt like it was something that was divine for me. So I'm not any type of
Yeah.
I never really thought that I was going to win Miss USA. I never thought I was going to win Miss World, just because I knew that my personality wasn't exactly what the pageant system was about. But it was still a very
Yeah.
amazing growth opportunity for me. I went from a really shy, tomboy young girl who was afraid to talk in public to people, to someone who isn't afraid to have a conversation with anyone, can get up on stage and sing a song. And I actually know how to do my hair and makeup now, which I never
Yeah.
knew how to do before. I never walked in high heels. So being able to have that experience, it really helped me develop as a woman and really go into that role as an adult woman with confidence. So even though I didn't think that they were necessarily the right pageant systems for me, I still saw them as such a
Yeah.
tool to be able to grow into the person I needed to become for the right opportunity.
Yes, I'd like to like zero in on what you said. Definitely, every pageant experience is a building block for, like, it's going to set you up for the bigger thing that you're supposed to be
Yes.
you're supposed to accomplish. And I think what happened is that after Miss USA, we have here the photo of your next pageant experience, which is Miss World
Yes.
America, right?
Hmm.
And I think you were also able to compete at Miss World.
Yes.
There
Oh,
you
I
go. And this
love
is a
that
really
photo.
great
That's
photo.
my favorite photo from that pageant. So that photo was taken right as my best friend Vanessa Ponce de Leon. I think some of you might know who she is.
Yeah.
So she was crowned Miss World 2018. She was my best friend during the entire duration of the pageant, and that truly was the most defining moment for me in my pageant history so far, was being able to meet Vanessa, because she was such an amazing woman, and we became fast friends. We still talk all the time. And, that was my reaction when she won, because, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I didn't think that with my advocacy being more environmental in nature always, that's not really what
Mm-hmm.
Miss World is looking for. They are more humanitarian based, which Vanessa did amazingly at. So for me, I was really rooting for her because she was my
Yes.
best friend.
As you
She
can
was my
see.
confidant. Yeah, so
Yes.
that
I
was
mean,
genuine excitement when she won. And my favorite memory from that pageant was actually Thanksgiving. So it was my first
mm-hmm.
time celebrating Thanksgiving outside of the United States without my family. And Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday with my family. So it was a really hard one for me. I was very sad, and Vanessa noticed I wasn't, myself that day. And she's like, "Well, what's wrong, Marissa? What's wrong?" And I kind of told her, I'm just really feeling homesick today. Out of all the days we were there for over a month. And out of all the days, that was the day I was the most homesick. So what
Uh,
she decided to do, she was like, "You know what, come over my hotel room after rehearsals and we'll just hang out and talk." And I was
wow.
like, "Okay, well, I'll go do that." And I get into her hotel room, and then out pops 15 girls from her closet yelling, "Happy Thanksgiving!" Yes,
Wow.
her and Miss Venezuela, who were roommates, they got together, a group of our closest friends at the pageant. We even had Miss Turkey there because we couldn't have a turkey for Thanksgiving. And that was my favorite experience at Miss World. They asked me to share kind of what our traditions are, the history of Thanksgiving, and
Yeah.
what I would do usually with my family is we'd go around the dinner table saying what we were thankful for. And so they decided that we were all going to do that. And so when we started it off, it just really blew my mind, and really humbled me to realize
Yeah.
what these women were thankful for. So one that really stood out in my mind was, some women were thankful that they were even able to come here because one of them, they were actually locked in their hometown for about 6 months from a cartel who invaded their hometown. So they actually were able to be freed from that only a couple weeks before she was meant to leave for Miss World. So that really made me realize how much we have to be thankful for living where I live and growing up where I live. And that really was a sobering moment for me, but it's something that will always stay in my mind. And those girls that came to that Thanksgiving will always be the ones that I cherish most from that experience.
Yes, wow, that's a very powerful message that you mentioned, because I think as of course pageant candidates, you also have to learn how to cultivate like a culture of like gratitude for whatever experiences that you have in the past, right?
Of course, exactly.
There you go. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I was really amazed by the fact that you had a really colorful and dynamic relationship with your Miss World sisters, where you placed, I think, top 30, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
right?
yes. I
Wow.
had a very tough group because we were competing by our continents. So obviously, with Miss World being from the Americas, that was a very tough group. But it was
Yeah.
so much fun. And I actually won the Miss World Sportswoman Award. So I won the sports segment. So I was
Mhm.
able to flex my Division II soccer, lacrosse, and cheering muscles and
Yay.
bring home that award to the United States, which was another highlight of my experience there, since athletics means so much to me. So that was
Mhm.
something else that I really enjoyed during my time.
There you go. Thank you so much for that experience at Miss World. Of course, now from Miss USA to Miss World, this time let's talk about that defining moment when you decided that, okay, I think Miss Earth is the pageant for me. Maybe you can tell if there is like a backstory behind the defining
Actually,
moment that
yes.
led you to like joining Miss Earth
So
USA.
I actually decided to join Miss Earth USA before I decided to join Miss World. So the reason why I joined Miss World America before I went to Miss Earth USA is because of my experience at Miss USA, and knowing that I went when I was a bit too young. I wasn't really prepared. I mean, I'm a small town girl from Maine. Maine is a very small state. It's not very pageant strong. I think I'm the only national title holder who's ever come from my state. So I didn't want to waste my one shot at Miss Earth the same way I felt that I wasted an opportunity at Miss USA by not being prepared. So I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to compete at a national and international level again, with all of the progress that I had made on myself since Miss USA. So that's why I decided to join Miss World first. But my goal was always to go back and to compete for Miss Earth USA as my last and final pageant, because that was the pageant that really spoke to me the most as to who I was. Because I always felt like I had to change who I was to fit the mold of the other pageant systems that I was in. And when you're doing that, you never are truly representing yourself 100%. And when you don't do that, you really don't have an opportunity to win one of the major titles, such as Miss Earth USA or Miss Earth. So being able to really highlight the parts of myself that I love the most, and that was really why I wanted to join Miss Earth USA, because they have the same mission as I have had since I was a little girl. And I really love the directorship that we have in the United States. It's a very strong team. I didn't have much help preparing for Miss World. So being able to be part of an amazing team leading into Miss Earth, if I get the opportunity, will be something I definitely will not take for granted.
Yeah, there you go. That's a really great thing that you share, Marissa. Maybe you can highlight a little bit the thing about finding the right pageant system for
Yeah.
you.
So I look at it kind of like dating. You have to kiss a few frogs before you find your Prince Charming. So, that is how my journey went. I know that some people are very lucky that they find the right person or find the right pageant system right from the get-go. But for the vast majority of us, I think we can all agree it takes some trial and error, and it takes a lot of figuring out who you are and what you want to do with your life, and then finding the pageant or organization or job that really helps you highlight the areas of yourself that you love and respect about yourself. Because when you're working and from your passion, that is when you can make the most change in this world. That's where you can have your greatest impact, is when you are doing something or part of something that you are passionate about and have the very same core values. So if you're looking for joining a pageant, if there's any girls out there, guys out there who are looking for a pageant system, a little bit of feedback, but my advice for you would be to really get to know yourself, get to know what
Correct.
your mission is, what your purpose is, and then find the pageant system that most closely aligns with your personal goals, because that's when you can make your biggest difference in this world of pageantry.
There you go. That's a really great thing that you shared. Really, I'm also really inspired to find out, Marisa, about the advocacy that you are planning to push forward as Miss Maine Earth USA. Okay, so what we can do now is we're going to highlight that by watching this video. Chris, I'm going to put this here. Okay. Something
So,
about your
mhm.
advocacy, which is the collective earth.
Yes.
Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the collective earth, my advocacy is about habitat preservation and conservation for endangered plants and animals. So 1 in 5 animals in the United States are at risk of extinction. And actually 200 of those plants and animals that are at risk are located right in San Diego, California, where I live. So the video that we just saw was from my time as a volunteer with NOAA's Cooperative Shark Tagging Program. So what I did is I went out into the field with the help of a biologist to collect data on the shark population in the Atlantic Ocean. And so with our data collection, it actually contributed to the 2017 stock assessment that imposed stricter fishing restrictions on the short fin Atlantic mako shark. And so that was to be able to halt the overfishing of the population. So the reason why we go out and tag these animals and gather information is so we have an accurate assessment of how many animals of those species we still have in our waters, what their health is like, if they're mating or migration habits have changed, and what causes that. So all that information is gathered when we tag the sharks. So we put in the tag, which allows us to track the shark. We take blood samples, we measure the shark.
Wow.
And so that was one of my biggest advocacies that I did prior with my Collective Earth overarching advocacy was when my work with NOAA's Cooperative Shark Tagging Program. But that's not the only animals that I advocate for. I also help restore the nesting sites of the endangered California least tern in San Diego. So the California least tern is a small little ocean bird. It was actually one of the first animals placed on the endangered species list back in the 1970s. And so every spring I go and volunteer to help them restore their nesting sites. So what we do while there is we are removing invasive plants from the sand dunes. So we actually don't have any more natural sand dunes in San Diego because of urban populations taking up those original sand dunes and building on those locations. So the only sand dunes that they have still for their habitat was actually a man-made sand dune on Fiesta Island. So that was sand left over from the dredging of Mission Bay. And because of that, it doesn't act like a normal sand dune, and plants are able to grow on there. Now, the problem is these chicks, when they are born, their eggs and the chicks are perfectly sand colored. So they're meant to blend in with the sand. But when you have all these invasive plants growing, it makes it very easy for predatory birds to be able to spot the chicks and take them away. And unfortunately, since they are endangered animal, we need to really preserve those chicks every single year to make sure enough of them survive to be able to continue to grow the population. So that's some more work I work on with advocating for animals and plants within San Diego. And I also work as a seal docent with the San Diego Seal Society. I just recently started with them. I've put together a video for them that we're going to show to the conservation board in San Diego, asking them to give we're going to ask to have the rangers to be present year round to be able to enforce people certain viewing distances, because where it is located in La Jolla, people often get too close to the seals and sea lions. We see people petting them, people throwing rocks at them, and there's really not a barrier to keep them away from them. And it's a really unique area where seals and sea lions have a high interaction rate with humans. So we're going to be using the video footage that I shot and directed to be able to ask for more protections for those seals and sea lions in San Diego in January at their next board meeting.
Wow, I'm really impressed with the extensive activities that you've already done with your advocacy, Marisa, the Collective Earth. And I think specifically wildlife conservation and protection is a very important issue nowadays, because of the fact that definitely there is a lack of like the mindset among people that we need to respect every living being.
Exactly. So there is actually a quote from Aldo Leopold. So he's a land ethics expert. He said, when we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. And so he advocates for teaching land ethics. So ethics in general are moral compasses that are used to direct how we interact with people within our community with respect for mutual benefit for all. And land ethics expands that definition of community to include animals, plants, and natural resources. So when we are able to instill land ethics in our community at a cultural level, that is when we'll be able to see real change in habitat conservation and preservation, and also a move towards a greener tomorrow. So that is the message I would like to share if I was able to have the honor of being Miss Earth U.S.A, is to instill land ethics within our culture in the United States. I think we are starting to go in a better direction. I mean, since 2005, our greenhouse emissions have gone down by about 10%. And, that shows that we're making progress, but there is still so much work to be done, such as rejoining the Paris Accord. And I would really want to be a part of that move forward in that shift in our culture, to be able to really look at our natural spaces in the United States as something precious in of its own self, not just in what we get out of it as humans, as the experience, but that they have the innate ability to have value that is not attached to how humans perceive it, and that we need to respect the fact that we are sharing this earth. This is not our world. This is not just, the human show. This is our world. It's our collective earth. And that's really important, because experts are saying that we are facing the 6th global extinction. So animals and plants are at risk for extinction 100 to 1,000 times more than they were prior to humans' involvement. So that is really alarming. That's the fastest extinction rate that we've had for animals since humans have been on Earth. So that's why my conservation efforts are so important, and to making sure we are able to preserve this for our future generations, and making sure that these plants and animals have a fighting chance to share this earth with us.
Wow. I'm also really amazed, and I'm also really happy that you've chosen that specific advocacy, because I totally agree that I think there needs to be like a paradigm shift in terms of like the value system, and the collective consciousness of people, because if you don't change the value system of how people treat not only human beings but every living being in the world, there wouldn't be any progress. Now I'd like Marisa to zero in, of course, the inspiration. You've already discussed the inspiration behind the collective earth. Now let's talk about the aspiration. What is now your bigger vision for the collective earth if ever you're going to win as Miss Earth USA 2021?
Yeah, so I think one of the very first things that we need to tackle is our cultural view of plants and animals. So that would be instilling that land ethic. So I think what we need in the United States is more exposure to the great outdoors. So the reason why I have such a love for nature and animals is because I was so fortunate to grow up in front of a wildlife preserve in a small town in Maine, where I was completely immersed in the environment and nature, and was able to have amazing exposure with animals. But not everyone gets that opportunity. So I think it's really important that we would be advocating for wildlife education in schools, and that would include leave no trace training. So I'm actually a certified leave no trace trainer that teaches us, different rules for how to respect nature while we are in nature, so we can make sure we are leaving no trace of the human interaction with the nature that we go to visit. So I think it'd be really important to be able to show young students not only how to treat nature with respect, but also to instill that love. I think that we need to be doing more field trips to national parks and state parks to be able to really instill that love for nature in our next generation, because in order to make any real lasting change, it has to be a cultural shift. So that is my goal if I was to be able to be Miss Earth USA, is to assist in taking steps that would be needed in order to make that cultural shift in the United States, where we are always thinking of how can we leave less of damage in our wake, and how can we also help preserve what we still have. So that would be my goal, is to be able to kind of share my work with young students and around the United States, and advocate for legislation that requires more outdoor and land ethic teachings in our school systems.
There you go. You know what? The task ahead, I think, Marissa, is, I think, daunting. It's a very heavy task ahead, I should say, but it's also really exciting and really inspiring, because I think what you showed right now is that you have a clear vision and like a clear framework of what you want to accomplish if ever you win the crown of Miss Earth USA 2021. So I think the Earthlings right now are totally agreeing with me right now, because there are a lot of comments coming in. But later on, I'm going to read that. Now, I'd like to put a spotlight on another thing that I found on your Instagram. This is actually about your passion for animal rescue, and I think you have mentioned about Milo in a while ago. Let me show a photo of Milo here. Maybe you can tell the story behind
Yes.
Milo.
So Milo came to me in a little bit of a different way than you would get most dogs. So my good friend Erica was volunteering at a shelter in Mexico, and she ended up adopting one of the dogs. Now the dog that she adopted, her name was Cheeky, and I was actually pregnant when my friend adopted her. So that's the reason why she wanted to get her out of that shelter, because she knew if she had those puppies there, that those puppies would not have any chance of survival because of the conditions of the shelter. So I was actually able to adopt Milo as a secondary rescue from my friend, and he has been the greatest greatest love of my life by far. He brings so much joy into my life. And I felt that way with every single rescue dog that I've had. So I know I talked a little bit earlier in my video about how my mother instilled in me a love for animals at a very young age. So we would always rehabilitate sick and injured animals. And part of that was actually transporting animals from kill shelters down in the South to Maine for adoption. And we kept one of them. Her name was Duchess. And she was by far the most sweet, loving dog that I have ever come across in my life. And she was a rescue. So I've always tried to make sure that if I ever bring an animal into my life, that I am doing so in a way that is benefiting that animal. And the easiest way to do that is to rescue animals and adopt and not shop. So that is why I had that in me before I decided to get Milo. And I actually wasn't quite prepared yet to have a dog. I was planning on getting a dog in the next 2 years. But when my friend shared with me that she was adopting Cheeky and I got to know that dog, I said, I need one of her puppies. I'll make it work. And it has been the biggest blessing of my life so far.
Yes, I totally agree because I also adopted like a pet cat myself, and I wasn't an animal lover at all at the beginning, Marissa. But then my friend mentioned adopting a pet is going to change your life forever,
Yes.
and I totally agree.
They were just so grateful. I feel as if adopted animals know how much you have done to save them. So they're so appreciative, and that love and connection is on such a deeper level than I've experienced
Correct.
with anything else. So I would definitely recommend to all the viewers out there, if you're considering getting an animal, try your best to adopt instead of buying it from a pet store.
Yeah. There you go. Again, that's a really great message coming from Miss Maine Earth 2021, Marissa. Now let's talk about, of course, the bigger picture this time, Marissa, since, of course, one of the major highlights of the year for USA in 2020 was the US elections, right? I'd like to ask now your input or insight on this one. How do you think, how important is like political will or like environmental leadership in the fight of the United States against climate change and the climate crisis? What is your take on that?
I think it's very important that we exercise our right to vote in the United States. There has been such a precedent showing that people have fought and died for that right to be able to have our voice. So as someone who is an environmental advocate, it's very important for you to be aware of what policies are being proposed to go into place that would affect our environment. So it's very important to stay up to date with current events that are in relation to things that are important to you. So a really good example of this is that I often write letters to my local government asking them to either approve or deny certain propositions that are going forward. So the most recent one, there was they were trying to do a land exchange between a development company on a preserved wildlife refuge. And so I wrote in to our elected officials and asked them and urged them not to pass this because there was actually an endangered butterfly. So it's an endangered Kino checker spot butterfly. That was one of their last habitats where this luxury housing department wanted to be able to build. So I wrote ahead of that board meeting asking them, please do not accept this land transfer and reject this so we can preserve this habitat that's so important to that butterfly's ecosystem. So that's really what I would advocate for is so for people it's more important for you to pay attention to your local government and your local policies because that's really where your voice can make a real difference. So that is also what we're going to be doing with that seal video that I mentioned earlier today. In January, there is another board meeting in San Diego where we're going to be asking for them to place stricter restrictions, actually giving a definitive distance that people need to stay away from these seals, asking for the rangers to be there year round, asking them to not allow dogs on that beach, not only because is it dangerous for the seals, but dogs can actually get very sick from being around the seals themselves. So we're asking for all these protections, and also for the beach to be shut down during their pupping season. So it's really important, because your voice can be heard at a much higher level when you are very active in your local government. So that would be where I would suggest people to really get involved, is go and attend the local board meetings and your town council meetings, and really get to know who your local government is and who you're voting for, because I think arguably those are the more important decisions to make, even more so than the president or your governor, because those are the people who are going to make more of a direct impact on your life as an individual citizen. And it's really local government that really shows the rest of the government the direction in which the people want to go. So making your voice known locally is the most important and efficient way to be able to make real change in your community.
I totally agree with what you said. And I think it's also like a partnership between the government and the citizens. Now let's talk about, of course, the citizens of United States. Of course, we have already gotten your insights about like governments and policies. Now, my question for you right now, Marisa, is what is that one thing that you are most proud of being an American in terms of like environmental protection? And what is that one thing that you wish changed? Changes in terms of like the mindset of the Americans in terms of environmental protection?
Yes. Well, I would say that I'm very proud of the progress that we've been making in greenhouse emissions. Like I said, we were down 10% from 2005 till 2020. So that is a really amazing opportunity. And that also showed that our economy grew during that time about 25%. So it shows that we can still grow our economy, but also make sure that we're making more efficient choices with how we go about production, and making that a little bit more green and sustainable long term. But so that would be something I'm really proud of. But I do think we still have a lot of work to do. That's just the start. And we need to do a lot more if we really want to combat climate change. But we always need to applaud the small steps that we're taking along the way. Then one thing I would like us to change, like I said, I want us to instill that land ethic, but a little bit more big picture. The most important thing I think for the United States is for us to rejoin the Paris Accord, which I do know our new administration is planning on doing. So that does make me very proud that we are going to be joining that conversation, because if we are not part of the conversation, we cannot be part of the solution. So it's really important that we join the rest of the world in making these big decisions and setting these guidelines, so that we all can share in the benefits of this preservation act that we were trying to establish. And if we aren't sitting at the table, then there's not really much that we would be contributing towards the solution. Oh, I can't hear you.
Think there you go.
There we go.
I think what you have mentioned is also like a really great message for everyone, not only for the United States, but also like everyone watching from around the world, because this is like a partnership among and between like different sectors of the community. It's not only the government's like objective or like responsibility. I think everyone, it's all about taking accountability across the board. And I think what you're doing right now as as part of Miss Earth USA 2021, it's going to have a huge deal, because I think you have like the platform and the voice to actually do that as well. And thank you so much, Marisa, for extensively sharing about the collective Earth, your efforts with Leave No Trails, and of course your passion for animal rescue. Really great job so far. Actually, one of our team members mentioned that you haven't won that title yet, but you have already done extensive work in terms of the advocacy. So we'd like to congratulate and thank you for the work that you have done so far, Marisa.
I appreciate it. And at the end of the day, it is the work that's the
There
most
you
important
go.
thing.
So now I'm going to.
Oh, I can't hear you again.
There you go. Now I'm going to go to the comment section because there are a lot of comments and I think a couple of questions. Sorry, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
There you go. There. Hello.
Oh, now I can. It cut
There
out
you
in
go.
and out.
Okay, so I'm going now to the comment section for some questions coming. Oh, there. This one. I'm right here. There you go. All right. So I'm going into the comment section now to all of the fans. If you have any comments or like questions for our special guest for today, feel free to comment them below. Like this one. Okay, this one's pretty interesting actually. Has anyone told you this?
I get told that
Polly
all the
told you?
time, and it's such a huge compliment to me. Because actually, when I joined pageants, was actually in 2011, and it was right after I saw Jimena end her year as Miss Universe, and she was actually one of the ones that inspired me to join pageantry in the first place. So it's a huge compliment for me when I hear that, because she was a role model of mine for quite some time at the beginning of my pageantry career. So I love hearing that. And plus, I love my fan base out in Mexico. They've been so supportive of me ever since Miss World. So being able to be compared to one of their top pageant divas of Mexico is always a huge compliment.
Okay, and again, another one, just to prove my point, another one is mentioning it. Yes. And with an additional comment, crown this girl already, tagging Miss Earth USA.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
There you go. And of course, we have here one question coming from Little Penny from YouTube. Maybe allow me to share this right now. She would like to ask Marisa, why does Maine have a little bit of French culture, like
Yeah, so
in
I
Louisiana?
actually am my background actually is I'm French Canadian, Native American, Spanish, and a few other things. But as far as Maine goes, Maine was bordering Canada, and in Canada they were actually colonized initially by the French. So I'm actually only a third generation American. My great grandfather was born in Canada. Their whole family was in Canada prior to that. That's also where I get my Native American side, because a lot of times with the French populations, they would send over their they were in the fur trade, so they would send over their male laborers to Canada initially, and oftentimes they would end up marrying into with Native American women. So that's kind of where my actual background had come from. So because we were so close to Quebec and we're close to where the French Canadians settled, Maine still does have a very strong French connection. My grandmother, her very first language was French. I spoke French a tiny bit when I was a kid. I don't remember any of it, though. I do speak a little Spanish now. But yeah, so French culture is still very much alive and well in Maine just because of the history of their settlement.
There you go. Thank you for answering that question, Marissa. And thank you, Little Penny, for that question.
Yes, thank
we
you.
have here one comment coming from actually our creative director, Emmanuel Feliciano. He'd like to emphasize this. This is a very important point. It is so nice to know that Marissa considers Miss Earth as a passion that fits who she is best. No wonder she waited until she was prepared. It is a great sign. I totally agree, Emma. Now,
Thank
Marissa,
you.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question to that comment. If, for example, a young girl is watching this interview right now and she is dreaming of becoming like a beauty queen as well, like you, what is like that one greatest advice that you can give that young girl?
You need to find out who you are and what you stand for. Because if you are joining a pageant without a mission, then there's really no point. The point is we are trying to advocate for a cause that is near and dear to our hearts. And so if you don't have a very clear vision of what that is, I would wait and develop that first and really work on yourself and your presentation skills before joining, just because, most major pageants, you only get one shot at the title. And I would hate for a young girl to waste a shot on a pageant that means so much to her as a person before she is ready, because that was the whole reason why I waited to join Miss Earth initially, was because I knew that I had a clear vision and purpose and plan for what I would want my advocacy to be if I was to be able to become Miss Earth USA and then subsequently Miss Earth. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to accomplish that goal if I didn't do the hard work first. You really need to get to know who you are, what you stand for, and what you want to leave this earth with as your legacy.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope someone out there gets inspired with what you mentioned, what you said, Marisa. Thank you. And Eman, thank you for that comment. Something from our EIC, Marky Gatchalian, would like to ask, wildlife preservation is an important step to maintaining biodiversity, but due to an increase in population, there is a need to meet human needs as well. How do you strike the balance between sustaining human needs but still preserving biodiversity? Wow. Loaded question, Mark,
Yes.
huh? What is
So
maybe
excited to answer this one. So I have talked in the past about my environmental economics education that I obtained while I was studying at King's College in London. And so a cornerstone of that education was the two schools of thought. So one being the Malthusian school of thought. And so that originally came from the idea and the concept that population growth can outstrip our ability to provide enough food for our population. And that would eventually cause either increased pollution or a diminishing access to natural resources, and we wouldn't be able to sustain that growth long term. Now, there is a second school of thought that is called the cornucopian school of thought. And so that theory is that the earth is actually a horn of plenty. And the reason for that is because of human capital. So human capital, one part of that is human ideas and their way in which we can use the natural resources we find in this earth in varying different ways, and think of ideas as instructions for how to put together different opportunities and different products. And so by making sure that we are always looking for more sustainable alternatives to our current production, we are able to also balance the needs of both plants and animals and humans by finding a little bit more of a sustainable way to make those products going forward. So a good example of this would be, I actually am starting my own swimwear line. So that's a new project I've been working on this year in 2020 with the extra time I've had. But instead of using the material that has new plastic in it, I have sourced recycled plastic to make the material for my bathing suits. And so that's recycled from ocean waste and plastic bottles, and then that's spun into new fabric. So that's actually a lot more of a sustainable way to create that fabric. It uses less water, it uses less pollution. So we're able to find new ways to approach old problems. So such as the shift from gas cars to electric would be another great example. So a problem though is that humans tend to be procrastinators. So until something is absolutely necessary, most people do not make big changes within their life. So we need to be supporting legislation that really gives incentives for people to be making these more sustainable switches within their businesses. And as consumers, we need to be very careful with what we use our spending dollars on. In economics, we refer to a dollar as our vote. If we are showing companies that we support what they are doing when we purchase their products. So by being a little bit more aware as a consumer as to what the companies that you are supporting are spending their money on. Are they looking for more green alternatives? Are they trying to make their products in the most efficient way possible? Is their packaging sustainable? So these are all questions you really need to ask yourself as a consumer, because as a consumer, we have the ability to drive demand towards products that are more environmentally sustainable in nature. And with that, we would be able to show companies that that's where our demand is. And if you want our money, you're going to have to change and keep up with our cultural shift. So that would be kind of my answer to that question, is that we need to just be looking for ways that we can make things as sustainable as possible with the least amount of impact. We're always going to make an impact on the environment. That's just the nature of being humans. But our job, because we are so sentient and able to really understand the consequences of our actions, it is our responsibility as humans to find the ways in which we can create the world of tomorrow that is more sustainable and just for not only people, but for plants, animals, and our natural resources.
There you go. The Earth Warrior slash environmental economist speaking right now. That was a really great answer. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mark Lee, for that question.
Yes,
I
thank
totally
you.
agree with what you mentioned. I mean, it's really about making that, using that power as a consumer to really make things happen. If we want to save the environment, we have the power. It's about the power of choice, so to say.
Yes.
There you go. And one last coming from our good friend Linel Valenciano. She would like to ask this one. How would you explain to a climate change denier, which is, of course, another hot button topic right now, on how serious our emission of greenhouse had become?
Well, as an economist, I love data. So that would be exactly where I would start the conversation. As Ruth Bader Ginsburg has always said, you can never win an argument if you are shouting. So instead of getting emotional, and which is hard to do because we're so passionate about this topic. So instead of being emotional, to take that step back, to present the argument with distinct details, with data points that are supporting your point, and then showing them the evidence. And that is really all we can do. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to change every single person on this earth's mind, but it's our job to not also push people away from our way of thinking either. So we need to make sure we are approaching these people with an open mind and also with facts and in a very calm and concise way.
For sharing that answer as well. And thank you to Linnell for that question.
Thank
And
you,
I
Linnell.
think that concludes our questions coming from our fans. Again, it has been a really lovely conversation with you, Marisa. I thank you so much for answering the questions of our Earthlings. Now, maybe one final question. Again, our dog here is saying hi right now. Hi,
Oh,
this
hello.
is
So
he's
cute.
barking right now, and he agrees. Now, maybe one last question, Marissa, before we officially end and give you the floor to give your final message. Since it's the Christmas season and it's the holiday season, if you're going to have like one Christmas wish for Mother Earth, what is that Christmas wish and why?
So my Christmas wish for Mother Earth would be that she takes this time during COVID to heal. So we have had this unique opportunity. The COVID pandemic offers a one silver lining is that greenhouse emissions are down. There's less humans traveling to and from work, so we were able to kind of take that break. So I saw 2021 as a break for Mother Earth, and so I hope that for Christmas she gets a little bit more of that going forward into the future by us humans adapting more habits, by being able to allow us to work from home more frequently long term, and things of that nature, so that she can continue to heal. I think that this was a really big wake up call. We talked a little bit earlier about how humans are procrastinators. Well, this was a big shift for us as humans to be able to have so many of our workforce work from home. That limits the amount of people who are on the roads commuting every single day. And that in turn contributes to a little bit more of a greener United States. So I hope that for Mother Earth for Christmas, that business owners around our country recognize that their employees are able to work from home, to allow them to continue working from home even after this pandemic is over, and give them that choice. Because not only does that instill family values by being able to be around your family more often,
Mhm.
but it's also contributing to a greener earth and healing for Mother Earth.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have heard from our Miss Maine Earth 2021, Marisa Paige Butler. Thank you so much. Virtual regards coming from Miss Earth Crown. This has been a really great conversation, and we wish you the best of luck on your journey at Miss Earth USA 2021. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did.
Thank you. Of
And
course, it was such a lovely
we will be
conversation.
we will be waiting for some highlights from the pageant. There you go. And once again, to all of our fans, this is only the very first episode that we're going to have for our special coverage of Miss Earth USA 2021 because after Marissa right here, we have another upcoming interview, this time with our MEC pageant roundup guest commentator before Sarah Massingale. The tables are turned this time. She's not interviewing, but she is going to be our guest. Miss Idaho Earth 2021 is going to be here on December 15 at 9 p.m. Philippine time. So please do watch out for that. And at this juncture, I'd like to say thank you. Maraming salamat, Marissa, for the time and to all of the Earthlings around the world for tuning in to our very first episode of MEC TV in Focus for Miss Earth USA 2021. This has been your host, Noy Sabelano, and this is Dumpy right here saying goodbye to everyone. Have a great Sunday and stay safe. Maraming salamat po. Bye!